That is why it is so important to actually teach kids to decode and not just to memorize. Hi sweet friend, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maylene Call from Mrs. Call's Campers. If you're new here, I am a kindergarten and first grade teacher in Northern California. Today I am so excited to share with you guys some of my favorite phonics and phonemic awareness tools that I use in my classroom. These are just the resources that I really like and I really want to share them with you, and I wanted to give them their own dedicated space on my channel. Again, if you're new here, I do put out weekly teacher vlogs and I actually do show you how I use a lot of the things that I'm about to talk to you in this video and kind of talk about why I like them throughout the course of the entire school year. So if that's helpful to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the family. Really quickly before we get started, I want to talk just a little bit about phonics, phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, all of those terms that can sometimes be confusing even to educators who have been teaching for years. It's very easy to flip-flop them. At the base level, phonemes are units of sound. A phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. Graphemes represent phonemes. When we talk about phonics, we're talking about the alphabetic principle. We're talking about that letter sound association, understanding that these symbols on a paper represent sounds or phonemes. When we talk phonological awareness, this is the ability to manipulate sounds. So syllables, onset and rhyme, those kinds of things are phonological awareness. We can narrow that down even more to phonemic awareness. Remember, a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound. I remember it in phonemic awareness because you hear that sound, phonemic, for manipulate. That's how I remember it. So phonemic awareness is manipulating the smallest unit of sound, a phoneme. So that looks like changing the k in cat to an so you would have rat. Phonemic awareness is the big one. This predicts reading success in our students. We can tell at an early age if they are really successful with phonemic awareness, they're most likely going to be strong readers, and the opposite is true as well. So the more phonemic awareness a student has, the better they're going to be able to decode and encode, the better they're going to be able to read, the better they're going to be able to write. I hope that clears it up a little bit. If you're still confused, that's okay. I also want to talk about reading. Our brains are hardwired to speak, but reading, writing, not so much. It is not something that comes naturally to us. It's something that we have to learn. And if we're focused too much on trying to figure out what the symbols on a piece of paper represent and connect the sounds to it, then we can't necessarily focus on the meaning of the word, which is the whole point of reading. And if we teach students to recognize that a certain group of symbols represents a word, we're doing them a disservice when it comes to other words. If students are just memorizing what a word looks like on a page, which some students will do naturally very well and others will not, but if we're just asking them to rely on that visual component when they get to a word that they don't know and are required to use a completely different part of their brain, it's not going to be easy for them. It's going to be even more difficult. So even if they know the word the and want and jump and fun and funny and are and all the other sight words that you can think of, they're not actually learning to read. They're storing that all in their memory, which means that it could stay or it could go. It's not a permanent place in their brains. All that being said, I want to share with you some of the things that I use in my classroom that I think really help my students. Every single one of the things that I'm about to show you is totally research based, and I use them in my classroom every single day. So I use a combination of phonics, phonemic awareness activities in my classroom on a daily basis. So what a whole group lesson might look like would be starting off with phonemic awareness. You always want to start off with this, and then moving into a phonics skill, practicing decoding and encoding with a new phonics skill. So last week in first grade, we were working on digraphs, TH, SH, CH. After that, we would go into reviewing our high frequency words, which are our sight words. After that, we'd move into a decodable text, which has the phonics skill and probably some of those high frequency words in there. And last, we would move into encoding or writing and practicing that phonics skill that we've just practiced throughout the entire lesson. So that's kind of what it looks like whole group for me. Sharing, just in case you needed some ideas for my small groups, they are skill based, which means that they can vary depending on the day or the kids, whatever is going on in the classroom. They're based on a certain skill that I want to focus with for a small group of students up to about 6 students. And in that small group, we are still doing a lot of those things. We're still doing phonemic awareness, we're still doing phonics, we're still working in decodable texts, but it's just a more skill-based group, whereas the whole group is broader. So I did just mention high frequency words and sight words. Again, there's been confusion with this in the education world. I feel like people use them interchangeably, but they're not necessarily interchangeable. A sight word is any word that you know by sight. So adults have tens of thousands of sight words that we know by sight. High frequency words, however, are words that appear most often. So it's not a sight word for a student unless they can recognize it by sight, which some of them might be able to do really well, and some of them might struggle with that visual memory. Tricky part is many of our high frequency words are not decodable in our typical sense that we would teach our letters and sounds. So in the word they, T is not making the T sound, E is not making the sound, H is not making the sound, T and H are actually making the sound, and EY is actually making the strong A sound, the long vowel sound, which can be really confusing, and even T and H can make totally different sounds, and E and Y can make totally different sounds depending on the word that they're in. So it's all very confusing to our young readers, and I'm not knowledgeable enough to know when sight words became a thing, but somewhere along the line someone decided these words are just too difficult to teach all of these phonics skills, and we need them to know them at a very young age, so we are going to introduce them as sight words, and the students just need to look at the word, the shape of the word, and know that this is the word they, or this is the word the, or this is the word, why can I not think of a sight word? Little. When in fact a lot of those words are actually decodable, but students just aren't at that stage that the curriculum has set for them, if that makes sense. So T and H is a skill that we learn in first grade, but kindergartners are still supposed to know the word the, even though they don't know that T and H makes the or the sound. So it brings up a problem. How do you teach students these phonics skills in a way that they can remember them when they're not supposed to see it in their curriculum until a year or 2 years or 3 years later? And this is why I love the secret stories. If you've seen my vlogs, I talk about it in almost every single vlog because I'm obsessed with it, and I think my kids are even more obsessed with it than I am. One of the reasons that I really love the secret stories is because it gives students all of those little pieces that they need so they can actually read the word. And not only can they read the word they, but they can also read other words that have all of those different pieces in the word itself. There's a really good TikTok that explains this when it comes to sight words. It's by Learning with Heidi. I don't know if I can find it. I just spent a really long time trying to find it. It's on her TikTok, Learning with Heidi, which on that note, I love following Learning with Heidi and Farmer Loves Phonics, I think. Those are the two that I really like to follow, and if you're interested in this kind of information, I would definitely recommend following them on TikTok. I can't find the specific one that I'm thinking about, but the whole point is if we take a word like funny, for example, and we ask students just to memorize the word alone, it can take tens, hundreds of repetitions for them to memorize the word, and they might not even remember it forever. But if we break apart the word into chunks that we can teach, if we can teach them the individual graphemes, if we can focus on those individual phonics skills in the word, the students are going to have ownership over that word, and they're going to be able to apply what they've learned in the word funny, like the Y at the end, and they're going to be able to transfer that to other words that they know, or maybe words that they don't know and they're trying to decode. And it also takes a lot less repetition. So you can still explicitly teach sight words, but you don't have to do it in a way that is 100% visual based, if that makes sense. So when I teach sight words, I map my sight words. I talk about this a lot in my vlogs, but we use sound boxes, which is a really common tool for educators to use, but we do it with our sight words too. And whenever a tricky part of the word comes up that we don't know, there is usually a secret attached, which is why I love using the secret stories. This is my first year using secret stories. It has completely changed the game for me. Completely. I cannot tell you how much my students love learning about the story. So if you see those posters up there, those are our secret stories. This is the secret stories book. It has lots of information. There's extra resources in the back of the book, and the red pages are the actual secrets. I'm going to show you on flashcards because it's a bit easier. This is the traditional set. It's on red, and that matches what's in the back of the book. She also has a set of red posters, which are her original posters. I have the decorative square posters, but I do have my secret stories posters all displayed up at once. They go across this whole back wall, except for our vowels that go above our normal alphabet that we have in our classroom. And it's really important that you have all of the secrets up at one time versus just displaying one. Your kids need to be able to have access to them at all times from anywhere in the room. That is going to be way more beneficial than teaching one secret or two secrets a week and having them put up on your board. They need access to the secrets all of the time. And it's also really helpful because if you randomly come across a word that has a secret in it, the poster is already up, it's already there, the kids have been seeing it, some of them might even ask about it. What is the secret behind this one? Or can you tell me about this one, which has happened to me before too? One of the points that Katie makes when she talks about the secret stories and why they work so well is the curiosity aspect to them. So when we're curious about something, our brain chemistry actually changes. And so the kids are just as curious as I am about these stories, and you learn it one time and they can remember it forever. So it's based off the idea that kids are looking for patterns. They want to make those connections, and they can make those connections a lot easier when it relates to them in some way, shape, or form. So all of her stories are stories that kids can relate to and kids can understand, and that's why they can remember them so well. So one of the first ones that I started off with was TH. I'll show you what it looks like on my wall. By the way, these are the flashcards, and they have the stories on the back if you are going through them really quickly with your kids. And I'm just going to read you the story on the back for TH. You guys have heard me say this before. These two should never be together, ever, and yet pick up any book and turn to any page, and guess who you see side by side on almost every page? T and H. And whenever they're together in words, they will always stick their tongues out at each other and say, and that is the sound that they make, like this, they, and with. And my students have loved this. They always spot it in words, and it goes for just about every single secret that we've learned. We're not through all of them yet, but I literally just introduce them as they come up, which is also helpful, again, to have those posters up. If I come across something in a word, then I'm like, hey, I wonder if there's a secret for that. I just glance up at the wall really quickly, and there's usually a secret for it. And she color-coded the book so that all your secrets are in red. So I make a big deal out of it. I open up my book, I flip to the secret, and I read it to them right then and there. We find the secret up on the posters up here, and then for the rest of the day they're finding it everywhere they look. So it's really, really helpful. I love the way that she has it organized, and this is my teacher tool for the secrets. Again, it has a lot of information about them and why they work so well. There's lots of evidence-based references in the back of the book as well. So the stories are really easy to teach, and the posters are really important because it helps make that connection in their brain. And even me, I can look at some of the secrets without knowing the story, and I can know the story based off just looking at the visual cues on the card. So for example, W and H, when they get together, they're always playing and running, and they get out of breath. W and H make the sound. Another one, AU, AW, they're in love. You can tell by the hearts. It's very, very easy for the students, and they remember them so easily. And it has made my life this year so simple. I wish this is something I had from my very first year teaching. I love them, love them, love them. The other thing I want to mention is that this is not a curriculum. You can use it with whatever your school gives you. Whatever curriculum that you have, you can use it with it. It is not a curriculum. It's just something to supplement, and it gets them learning those tricky phonics skills a lot quicker, so your students don't have to spend hours and hours trying to memorize a word. It's also really important because reading is a very systematic process that we follow, and so I think it's assumed that memorizing words by sight speeds up the process, but it actually really slows it down. And again, you're going to have those students who are really good at memorizing words, and you're going to have those students who really, really struggle with it. And the discrepancy kind of comes in because students who can read word by sight might appear to be more fluent readers, when in reality they're not actually reading at all. And the whole point of reading, again, is to read for meaning, reading for that comprehension piece. And the quicker you can read words, the more that you build up your own sight word vocabulary, the more fluently you can read, therefore the more meaning you might get out of it. But it's not true for those visual readers all of the time, and they can really struggle later on if they're just trying to memorize all of these sight words. And I've heard so many stories of parents who have children that did really well in the early years of school because they just memorized so many sight words, and then they struggled when they got to 4th grade, 5th grade, even 6th grade when it comes to reading. And so that is why it is so important to actually teach kids to decode and not just to memorize. Because over time, students who can decode just get faster and faster at it, and yet they've built such a large skill set that's going to help them in anything that they read. And the learners who have just memorized everything for whatever reason it might be, whether a teacher was asking them to do it or they did it naturally on their own and just didn't learn those skills that they needed, they're eventually going to slow down and struggle. So that's what we're trying to avoid. That's why we map our sight words. That's why I use the secret stories. Like I said earlier, the sounds we normally teach our letters making, like T says T and H says H, that's not true most of the time. And so Katie kind of explains that the letters are doing the next most likely thing. They're making the next most likely sound. So it gives them something that they can try when they try a word with the sounds that the letters are supposed to make and it doesn't work. And yeah, I just find it super helpful because, you know, like I mentioned before, kindergartners are expected to know the word the, even though they don't really know the digraphs or the reason that E is making the sound in the word. And the secrets kind of give them a reason for that and a way to remember it. They know that vowels, when they're not sure what to say, they'll say That's part of the secret stories, and it's very, very helpful, especially to a 5-year-old who is trying to make sense of the complex language that is English. It is very confusing, and even as a teacher, sometimes they'll ask us why, and we might not know, and this is your way out of that. I could talk for hours on the secret stories. Again, I've just started implementing them this year, and I am absolutely obsessed with them. There is a Secret Stories Facebook group if you want to join that. You can see how other teachers are using them in their classroom, and it might be helpful. I'll leave the link for you in the description box, but we're going to move on to another tool that I also love. May I present to you Rime Magic? And this is a tool that I have been using since my very first year of teaching. I actually saw this in an intervention program at the school that I was student teaching at, and I am so incredibly grateful because this is not something that a lot of people talk about, but it is one of my favorite tools. It's called a phonics-powered prevention and intervention tool for all students. It's like a kit, and she calls it prevention and intervention because a lot of the struggles that readers might have can be prevented with this kit. I love it so much. Comes with a wonderful book to explain it. This isn't something that you have to constantly have and reference. You basically just need to like sit down for a couple of hours and just like read through it. She explains all of it, and it's not complex. Once you know the steps, there's technically 7 steps, but less than that in reality. Once you know the steps, you are good to go. I don't ever pull out this book for anything. It's more like a one-time thing. You could go back to it. I just don't. So she has the book that explains it. She also gives you, these are more like screeners, I guess, to kind of see where your readers are. A lot of times this kit is used for intervention. I did talk to you about this in my last vlog a little bit, but I want to go into more detail here. So you start with the vowel card. So and you practice with the vowel sounds. That's step 1. And you only do step 1 if it's needed. I keep it up on my desk as like a little reference. And then we get to step 2, which are these green rhyme cards. So just to brush you up, onset and rhyme, when you split them, it is splitting the beginning of the word and then the vowel and everything after it. So like in the word zip, z would be the onset and ip would be the rhyme. So that's why these are your Rime Magic cards, because it's the rhyme that's showing. So like in the word flip, full would be the onset and ip would be the rhyme. So you practice with these. So the way that she instructs you to use these is you're supposed to wait for the students to chime in with that vowel sound. Again, you have reviewed your vowel sounds, so they should be able to start trying to produce this rhyme. And as soon as you hear them starting to produce the rhyme, you hop in right with them. So you would say it 3 times, ip, ip, ip. Go to the next one, ed, 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 ugh, 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 og, 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 and you would begin spelling 1-syllable words. So you'd just be adding 1 letter to the beginning. And the way that she tells you to do this is by using your finger as a placeholder and holding the card like this and using your other hand to point to the word. If I wanted to spell the word log, again, I would wait for them to say L, and we'd say it together. So L-O-G. And you'd keep going and you'd say id, ib, 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 am, again, waiting for the students to start saying it first. M, spell mom. Wait for them to say M, M-O-M, mom. You'd go through and you can even make it a little bit more difficult by asking them to spell words with blends. So spell twig. You'd wait for them, T-W-I-G, and if they mess up, you start all over. So if they say T-U, you'd start over, T-W-I-G. So you really want them to get it right. And then after you go through all of these, you've practiced making those 1-syllable words, you would introduce the endings. Let me grab my endings card. I keep this up at the front of the room because we use it all day long, but you go through the different endings, so s, d, or t, ing, est, e, ul, and then you'd have them spell words with an ending. So if you wanted to do the word bigger, you'd wait for them to say B, B-I-G-G. The first time you go through it, all you need to say is that you double the letter before you add an ending. It's super simple. That's all you say. We double the letter before we add the endings. B-I-G-G, and then you'd hold up 2 fingers, E-R. bigger. So when I first introduce the rhyme card, I'll just start by saying words with endings and have them identify the ending in the word, and then you could even practice spelling it. But this is something that we use all year long. It's an essential piece to this kit, and your students are really going to build confidence super quickly when you're using Rhyme Magic in the classroom. And again, this is not a curriculum. Just like the secret stories, it's not a curriculum. It's something that you do literally 5 minutes a day, whole group and or small group. I do both. I start this with my kinders as soon as we're done with all of our letters and sounds. First graders, you could start it on day 1. It's just fantastic. It builds so much confidence, and the whole idea around Rhyme Magic is it's supposed to be a very positive experience. So even if you're trying to spell the word bigger and they say Biggle, that would be big ol. Which one do you think would be bigger? You always want to praise them for the things that they're getting, even if they guess something wrong. The whole idea is for it to be a very positive experience. The Rhyme Magic program is going to build them up so quickly. You will be stunned the progress they make. This is even used in, I know, 4th grade, 5th grade classrooms, high school, for students who need that intervention, for students who are missing a lot of those skills down at that they should have learned in 1st grade, 2nd grade. This is something that you can use for intervention in the upper grades. So they're going to get more skilled. The more you practice this, they're going to get more comfortable and more confident with it. And the other important thing, again, is that wait time. So waiting for students to start it first. And the more you do it, the faster they'll get and the better they'll get just naturally. So these are the magic rhyme cards. And then you get into the embedded rhyme cards, which look like this. And when you look at this word, especially if you're a 1st grader, it can be very intimidating. Remember, the whole idea is to build confidence and build automaticity, spelling 1-syllable, 2-syllable words with ending. When they get to a word like this, you want to teach them to recognize the rhyme in the word. So you'd ask students, let me give a simpler one to start. You'd ask students the rhyme in the word. And when you first start doing this, a lot of them will say ED, and you'll say, great, ED is one of our endings. Who sees the rhyme in the word? And once they say OB or they say OB, you'll cover it up. Yes, OB. So in this word, it would be ut, and it starts to really stand out to them. So ut, but, and then they can see quickly that they can start decoding words. And sometimes I'll just cover it all up like this. Ut, sput, sputter, sputtering. So you can even double the endings on there. But again, this is just a really easy way for them to build confidence. I do writing activities with this principle all the time. Have them start with the rhyme, add the beginning sound that they hear, the onset, and add the endings. They love it. They love it because they're learning to be readers. They love it because they're learning that they can write and read so many words that they didn't even know that they could write and read. So the whole program is really simple. You get a lot of things with it, though. It is very helpful. So you get the rhyme cards that you use first. You get the embedded rhyme cards, so the rhyme is embedded in the word. You get these, and then you also get the rest of the rhymes, and a lot of these are the secrets. So it'll be even easier if you're using the secret stories. So your students will probably at this point already know that A and W say aw because they're in love. They'll probably already know that, which will make this even faster. But you'd go through aw, ing, ing, oi, oi, oi. Again, there's a secret for that. So if you want to spell toy, T-O-Y, toy. So you just do these. These are a bit more complex than your traditional rhyme cards, which are totally decodable. You just sound them out. These are a bit trickier, which again is why if you're using the secrets, it'll be even better. When you get to these, you can also start talking about the skill where you would drop the E and add your ending. So if you have or and you're trying to write the word snoring, you'd say S-N-O-R, and you'd cover up the E, and they'd add the ing ending, so I-N-G. So if they spell it, it'd be S-N-O-R-I-N-G. And again, that's just something that you tell them. You drop the E before you add the ending. So it's really simple. There's not hoops that you have to jump through. Very straightforward. But that's one of the reasons that I love it so much, is because it's straightforward, but it's super effective, and you'll see progress really quickly with your kids. So not only does it come with the rhymes, the rest of the rhymes, the embedded rhyme cards, then you have the embedded rhyme cards for the rest of the rhymes. You also get the power packs. So if you are working with a specific vowel team, you can pull these out. So it's organized in here. You can see all the different tabs by all the different not vowel teams. word families is the word I'm looking for, but you would just pull it out. So if you're focusing on ip, it's kind of hard to get out because they're so tightly packed in there, but no problem. You could then practice all of your ip words, clippers, tiptoe, chipping. It just has a whole bunch of other words that you can practice your rhyme magic with. So yeah, not a lot to it. It's not complicated. It's something that you could buy and start using in your classroom the very next day because it's so simple, so easy, and so straightforward. Your kids are going to love it. I also take these on field trips. We practice them on the bus. We practice them when we're waiting in line. It is wonderful. I can't recommend it enough. I had a link in my Amazon for this, but I think it might be sold out right now on Amazon. So you can purchase it through Scholastic. I'll have links for everything in the description box. So Secret Stories and Rhyme Magic are probably my two favorite tools to use in the classroom because you are setting your students up for so much success. Your students want to be successful. They want to know how to read. They just don't know how to get there. You're not just, throwing them out there and saying, try it without them having any idea what to try. You're literally giving them all of the tools that they need to be able to go out and decode and encode, to read and write words. It is so helpful. Those are my favorite things. The next thing I want to talk about is also very exciting, and it does relate to sight words. And if you watch my vlogs, follow me on Instagram, you know, it is iWords. Now these are the physical set. I do have the digital set, which I had first because pandemic. So I got the digital cards. I just printed them. I would put them in my PowerPoints. Digital cards are versatile, but if you want to purchase them, I would recommend getting the physical cards. I just would. If you can, I would get these. And if you're watching this video when it comes out, they're on a Black Friday sale right now. Click the link in my description. It's an affiliate link, but it will take you to the cards that I have, and you can save, I think, like 35%, 35%, something like that. The biggest sale you're going to get on these cards. When I first got them, I just printed them out and I just kind of like memorized what was on the back. You can print them double-sided, but it didn't line up with my printer. Anyways, these are the digital cards. These are the physical cards. I don't know if you can tell like the size. And I have my sight words organized in this little photo keeper box from Michael's. So I have cards that I'm going to teach, cards that we've already taught. I keep the numbers, shapes, and colors cards separate because it's just easier for me that way. But these are really, really handy for storing your sight words. I just wanted to share that with you. This is from Michael's. But the whole idea behind iWords is a multi-sensory approach. So here's what the cards look like. On the front, they have the word and a visual to kind of help them remember. And then on the back, it's just the plain word. And then you could see the phrase that goes with it. So again, it's a multi-sensory approach. I just kind of want to show you what the cards look like. I haven't separated this pack yet. I just recently got the physical cards, which again, I'm very, very grateful for. And it's also helpful because I teach a combo class. So now I kind of have like 2 sets of them. But anyways, it's a multi-sensory approach. So you have the word, you have the visual that goes with it, you have the phrase that you would say on the back, and you would have a motion that goes with it that they show you in the top corner. And I get asked all the time, does this align with the science of reading? Which I do want to take a quick pause to talk about the science of reading. I am not trained in the science of reading. It's something that I am very interested in, but I am not an expert and don't even know half of it. I am, however, in the Facebook group, The Science of Reading, What I Should Have Learned in College, and I have learned so much through that group. The training is really expensive to get, so I don't have it yet. One day I will. But if the science of reading is something that you're interested in or that you're new to, or maybe you just now heard it in this video, click the link in the description box, go to that Facebook group. I promise you will learn so much from the people in that group. They have free trainings all the time. I've attended lots of them. It's very, very helpful. But yes, this does align with the science of reading because you're not sacrificing anything that you would normally do. You're still doing all the things that you would normally do. This is just a visual aid, a visual support, and it's just to supplement what you're already doing in your classroom. So we still, like I explained, we still map the sight words, we learn the secrets, we learn to decode them, but this is just for review. So I love them. We've talked about sight words a lot in this video, and I feel like one of the trickier parts is a lot of times when we teach sight words, and I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody, but a lot of times when sight words are taught, they're taught without any context, and so that's another reason I love these words is because you have a meaningful phrase that goes with it. So when we do the word go, you are pretending to hold a steering wheel in your hands and pressing the gas pedal with your foot. Go. So you would do that. You'd say go, and the phrase would be go on green. go on green. For this one, putting on a baseball cap. He is a boy. So it's connecting their visual, kinesthetic, all of those things very, very quickly, and it's helping them embed that into their brains. So these are great. It links all of your senses, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. You have it right here. And there is a sequence to teach the sight words. So iWords isn't saying just show this to your students and have them memorizing it. They still want you to go through their process, which would be showing them the picture side, saying the word, they can see the visual, and then you would say the phrase. For here, it would be here it is. And you would teach them the action. So that's what they want you to go through in the first step. Second step would be mapping the sight word, and you would want to use the back side for it. So you would be able to point out the parts that you have to memorize. I know some educators do the heart words method, and they'll do that on the back of the card here. But for this word, we would teach them that E is making the long E sound because Mommy E, or whatever you use. If you use Secret Stories, it would be Mommy E. Mommy E is at the end of the word telling E to say its name. So E-er, and then she covers her mouth. So that would be an example of how to do it. I have my students write it with sound boxes on a piece of paper. And then after that, you would play games. So they include a bunch of different sight word games, ideas. When you buy the cards, you could play whatever sight word games you really want. I just make them up on the spot a lot of times, but that's their whole process. So you're not sacrificing anything you would normally do with the science of reading. You are just giving a visual aid. And I also I got the digital cards, as I mentioned before. I use that to make a little list for my parents to send home too. And then also, they recently sent me these desktop dictionaries, and I've purchased iWords. I love iWords, but it's very nice that they sent them my way too. So they have a little alphabetized desktop dictionary that you can have. And especially if you can't, I know a lot of people display sight words. I don't have a place in my room that I display sight words this year. I did last year, and it was helpful, but this year I don't know, I don't feel like I really need to, and that's a personal choice. You can do what you want. But I am going to be putting this in our centers, so they can just have a little dictionary if they need it in a couple places in my classroom where they can go and grab it if they want. I love iWords. Again, if you're watching this video when it comes out, they're on a major sale. This is the best time to buy them. And if you're watching this when the sale is over, you can still use my code CALL to save money, C-A-L-L, like my name, CALL. And you can save money whenever you want to purchase them. And the last thing I want to share with you, again, is an essential part of my classroom. I invested in this when I taught kindergarten last year. And when I taught first grade, our literacy coach got us these. So this is the one that you use for primary. This is the one for kindergarten. And I think pre-K has a different one, and there's Spanish versions as well, but it is Heggerty. I didn't even say the name. Heggerty. And this is a phonemic awareness curriculum. It is a curriculum. Again, you can still use it with whatever curriculum you normally have. I know that at my school we use Wonders, and I don't necessarily love the phonemic awareness activities that they have in Wonders. This is a lot more intensive. It's more thought out. You're going to see a lot more progress with this than you will most likely with any kind of phonemic awareness that is built in to your curriculum. So I have the kindergarten version and I have the first grade version. I am teaching a combo class right now, but I want to rewind back to the beginning of the video where I said that phonemic awareness is the big one. This predicts reading success in our students. We can tell at an early age if they are really successful with phonemic awareness, they're most likely going to be strong readers, and the opposite is true as well. So important. It's overlooked a lot of the time, and a lot of the time, like I said, our curriculums are not doing a good enough job giving this to our students. They're not doing a good enough job exposing students to it, and they're not doing a good enough job preparing students for decoding and encoding. It's just not happening, which is why I think it's so important to maybe invest or ask your admin or district to get this. And like I said, everything in this video that I'm showing you is completely evidence-based. It's not just, well, I think it works. It's actually based on evidence. So again, because this is phonemic awareness, this is all things that you are doing with your students completely auditory. They do have hand motions that you can do with them. And when you are doing phonemic awareness, you can still add visuals to it. You're just not introducing that grapheme. You're not introducing that letter, because then you get into phonics, and phonemic awareness is not phonics. So I have these right here. You can use cubes as visuals when you're doing phonemic awareness. You can use sound boxes as visuals when you're doing phonemic awareness. You're just not introducing the letters because then that is phonics. So the 8 skills that they cover are, I don't know if you can see, rhyming, onset fluency, blending, isolating final or medial phonemes, segmenting, adding, deleting, substituting, and it gets harder as you go down the list. Rhyming would be the very simplest. It's self-explanatory. Do these words rhyme? Give me a word that rhymes with this word. Onset fluency would be that beginning sound. So we already talked about onset and rhyme. Onset is the beginning of the word, and rhyme is the vowel and everything after it. So in the word cat, the onset would be k, or in the word flip, the onset would be full. Then you would get into blending. This is just a really quick review where you give them each part of the word, each phoneme, and they put it together. So k, a, t, and they would say cat. Then you get into isolating the final or medial phonemes, so the last sound or the middle sound. And like I said, Heggerty does have hand motions, so their hand motion for isolating the final sound would be you'd punch it, I think is what they say. So if you're doing the word cup, you would say cup, and you'd punch that last sound, or dog, dog, and you'd punch the last sound. For the middle sound, they do like a roller coaster, so cup or dog, so they get the sound that you go up on in the middle, if that makes sense. For segmenting, it is the opposite of blending, so you'd give them the word cat and they'd go k, at, they have you chop it. And then adding and deleting is exactly what it sounds like. Say at, add k to the beginning. Now you have cat, and they actually do encourage you to model it with your hands. So you're doing it backwards for the kids. I don't know on video if it's going to be normal or backwards for you, but say at, add k to the beginning, cat, and they'd put it together. Deleting is when you would take it away, obviously, so say cat without the k, at. And substituting would be where you would change it. So say cat, change the k to m, mat. I've shown it before in my videos. This is 10 to 15 minutes every single day. It has a plan for you Monday through Friday, 10 to 15 minutes. It starts with rhyme, onset, blending, isolating final sounds, segmenting words, and it gets harder the more you get into it. So it's organized by weeks. This is week 4, for example, and it goes to 34 weeks, and the skills get a little bit more difficult. So again, with blending, for example, they're not going to start kindergartners off blending k, a, t into cat. They're going to start them off blending compound words. So earth, worm, earthworm. Hand motions go with it, totally okay. Primary grades, it's obviously a little bit more challenging, but it does the same kind of scaffolding for them too. So this is something that you are doing with them every single day. And again, remember, phonemic awareness is the biggest predictor of literacy success. This is 10 to 15 minutes with your kids every day, explicit phonemic awareness instruction, invaluable. These books are incredible. One of the best investments you can make if you're a kindergarten or first grade teacher, promise you. Okay, those are all of the things that I wanted to share with you in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them below. I do want to say, I know that each of these pieces that I'm sharing with you, I know they are expensive. I know to purchase everything in this video, it would be hundreds of dollars, but I just want to share with you the things that I'm using, why I love them, why they're important. They are pricey if you're buying them by yourself. I'm not gonna lie, they are. Rime Magic is $109. Secret Stories is a little bit over $100. iWords is cheaper, but if you want the whole set, it's probably gonna be around $100. Heggerty is just under $100. They're all very pricey, but again, they're all research-based. They're proven to be effective in the classroom, and if you really want to give your students all the tools that they need to be successful, these are the things that I would recommend. I'm sorry that they have price tags on them. I can't help that, but I do love them, and there are things that I've gotten over time. So do what you can, speak to your admin, start donors, choose projects, and let me know. Do you use any of these things in your classroom? Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I love you guys so much. Remember to subscribe to see future videos. Like this video if it was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.